So folks, what we're going to be talking about today is one of the most important pieces of commercial real estate. Why? Because it's very, very simple, okay? If you're asking too much for a property, it's never, ever, ever going to sell. So what does that sound like? Okay, Eula, let me give you an example. If you can just hop on the mic real quick for me, please. Okay. Eula, if I gave you a $20 bill and asked you to bring me back 20 singles from the grocery store, do you think you'd be able to do that?
Sure.
Okay. Now, if I gave you the same exact $20 bill and I asked you to bring me back 19 singles, do you think you'd be able to do that?
Sure.
Okay. Why? You put one in your pocket, give me back the rest of the 19. That's pretty easy. Now, what if I gave you a $20 bill and asked you to bring me back, I don't know, let's say 23 singles? Do you think you'd be able to do that for me? Or do you think you'd have me waiting quite some time?
It will take some time, maybe deposit at a bank, wait for the interest to grow, and then I'll be able to bring it back.
Okay.
23, 20 now, 3 later.
You'd keep me waiting a while, though, is the point, right?
Yeah.
If I wanted to buy groceries for it, I'd be getting very hungry. Okay. The point I want to make to all of you guys is you cannot, and I mean cannot, ask $23 for a $20 bill. Guys, type in the chat $23 if you're picking up what I'm putting down. Okay. It's important for everybody to understand. If you are not able to price a property properly, guess what? It's going to sit. It is going to stay put, and you're never going to make the money. You could have the best listing in the best area of town. You could be the most successful agent that's ever been. But if you're asking $23 for a $20 bill, you're not going to make the sale. You with me, guys? Okay. So the most important thing for all of you folks, okay, is if you learn anything, get things priced properly. Okay. Get things priced properly. Okay. So can anybody tell me, all right, what the most important thing is? Okay. Is if you're able to, okay, if you're able to get this dialed in, okay, and you know what you need to know, all right, you're able to price properties properly. So what's the number one thing that comes in? Type in the chat, guys. What is the number one thing that comes in? Okay, exactly. It's called money, right? Right. What is it called? It's called rental income. Okay. And I want you guys to think about this because so many people tell you, oh, you got to specialize in one property type. You can't sell multiple property types. Folks, it's all a bunch of garbage. Why? Because money comes in the form of income. Money goes out in the form of expenses. What's left over is called net operating income, or NOI. And all we do is we apply a local area cap rate to that. Very, very simple. Okay. So $100 comes in, $40 goes out in the form of operating expenses. What's left over is called your NOI. Okay. $60 of NOI, and you apply a cap rate to the $60. Okay. Now, the most misunderstood thing, and I know this for a fact, okay, because when I started my Facebook group, right, we started, I guess about 4 years ago, all right, the first 200 people in the door, okay, it was weird. It was like everybody had conspired. But the first 200 people in the door, I asked them, what's your biggest issue facing commercial real estate? And guess, type it in the chat what their number one thing was that they did not understand. Type it in the chat. Cap rate. Okay. Now here's the beautiful part. I'm going to break it down for you because so many people like to make things so much more complicated than they actually are. Okay. Tonight, with regard to valuation, we're going to be covering cap rate. And I'm going to show you all how to figure out the local area cap rate. Okay. Because the cap rate in Cincinnati is not the cap rate in San Diego. It's not the cap rate in San Antonio. It's not the cap rate in Augusta, Georgia, and not the cap rate in New York City. And I'm going to prove it to you. Okay. So I want everybody to be ready when we get to it. But remember, folks, cap rate, the capitalization rate, is nothing more than the relationship between the value of the property and its income. That's it. It's just a ratio. Okay. All right. You with me, guys? Okay. So for instance, if a property brings in $100,000 a year, and if the property is valued or the asking price is $1 million a year, okay, what's that ratio? Type it in the chat, folks. What is that ratio? Property it has $100,000 of NOI. They're asking $1 million for it. What is that ratio? Type it in the chat, folks. It's 10%. Okay, folks? So all you do is you take the net operating income and you divide it by the asking price of the property, in this case, $1 million, and it equals 10%. Okay, so what I want to do, folks, is pull up some slides for you so we can see this visually. A lot of people are visual learners, so I think it's most important and most helpful in order for you to see what this looks like. So let me go ahead and pull this open. All right, give me 1 second. Okay. So can anybody tell me the difference, all right, between an operating expense and a capital expense? Okay, so we know what income is. Income comes in the form of rents, okay? Can anybody tell me one word for an operating expense? What is something that we use to describe operating expenses? Okay, cost of financing? No. The cost of funds is that's going to be the APR on your loan. Okay, but let me see. Anybody else have any guesses? Okay, operating expenses. Okay, good, Ken. Yeah, these are things that are regular and recurring. Okay, they're regular and recurring. What does that mean? Very, very simple. Let's name some things that happen in a building that are regular and recurring. What is something that happens monthly? What is something that happens quarterly? What is something that happens annually? Type it in the chat. Okay. What does that look like? What are some? There we go. Taxes. That's a good one. Okay, taxes. Let's talk about what other expenses happen monthly or quarterly or annually. What does that look like for you guys? Okay, you got property taxes. Good. Yeah, your property taxes. Okay, there we go. Utilities. Good. Now let's expand. What are some types of utilities that are out there, guys? What are some types of utilities? Remember, it's whatever is coming out of the landlord's pocket. So what are some utilities that a landlord might pay? Let's think about it. Type it in the chat, guys. Okay, yeah, there you go. Gas. If he's in up north, sometimes the landlord will cover the heat. Okay, there we go. Good, Ken. Landscaping. Love it. Yeah, Ron. Electric bills. Good. Yep. You love electric bills. Yeah, maybe he has some lights that shine on the parking lot. Okay, these are all things that the landlord needs to pay out of pocket. Okay, why? Very simple. Because maybe he's responsible for it. It's very, very simple. All right. So we're going to open up our today's lesson on valuation. So now that we've kind of covered what some of the bits and pieces are, we're just going to review a little bit, and then we're going to get you up and rocking and rolling. All right. So this is module 4. All right. What we're going to go into, guys, just so you understand what underwriting is. Underwriting is just coming up with the value of a property given the income, given the expenses. Okay, so income minus expenses equals your net income. Okay, if you want to look at it a little bit more in depth, it's rental income plus additional income. Folks, what are some things that could be constituted as additional income? What are some things that could be called additional income? Throw that in the chat, guys. Laundry. Okay, good. Yep, love it. Parking. Yeah. Okay, good. Good. What are some other things? All right. Yeah, maybe vending machines, storage. Yes, these are all things that are not rent, but they are a form of income. Good. So you add the two together, rental income plus additional income, and you get potential gross income. You subtract out your vacancy and your collection loss because no building is 100% full 100% of the time, and you come out with your effective gross income. Okay. You then subtract out your operating expenses, which we just talked about, regular and recurring. Okay. So what are those things? It could be maintenance. It could be lawn maintenance. It could be electric bills. It could be gas bills, so on and so forth. Okay. So what we wind up seeing, folks, and we see it all the time, is when you're going to ask an owner for their financials, oftentimes they'll have things in there that don't belong on the underwriting. Okay, maybe they'll have capital expenditures. Now, let me give you some hints. Type in the chat, folks, in terms of expenditures, something that happens every once in a great while, like once every, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. What are some things that occur every 20 to 30 years? There we go, Ken. Yes, changing the roof. That's a good example. So they'll be like, oh yeah, I made the building made $120,000 last year and we put on a new roof. It's like, whoa, time out. The building made way more than $125,000 last year. You pulled out the roof. You included the roof as an operating expense. And what do we know? Changing the roof is not regular and it's not recurring. Okay. All right. So what are some other things that are like major renovations? Okay, let's talk about major renovations. Maybe new windows. Maybe here we live in South Florida. Maybe upgrading your windows to hurricane grade. Okay, that's a big one. Okay. Yep. Things that don't happen a lot. Parking lots. All right. That's another big one. They want to restripe and repave the parking lot. That's another big one. What about during the winter, guys? Right? What about heating? What about air conditioning? Okay. These are things that only come up every 15 to 20 years. Okay. So these are the most important things to understand. Those items do not belong in operating expenses. They will artificially lower the net operating income because they only happen every 20 years. The things that happen regular and recurring, absolutely, but not the things that happen every once in a while. Type a 1 in the chat if you're with me, guys. Does that make a lot of sense to you? Okay. We want the things that happen all the time, not the things that happen just every once in a great while. Okay. With me on that? Good. Okay. Next up, folks. So what I want you folks to understand is capitalization rate. Like I mentioned earlier, it's nothing more than a relationship between the income producing properties, net operating income, and its value. So it's net operating income divided by purchase price. Okay, folks? Very, very simple. And that is what's also referred to as cap rate. Now, what we are going to do, folks, we are going to show you, and I've never taught this stuff before, so you guys are fortunate. So we're going to talk about local area cap rate. Okay. Do me a favor, everybody. Put your city and state into the chat. I want to see where you guys, what you're doing, where you're coming in from. Okay. We got Fremont, California. Love it. Houston, Texas. Good. What else do we have, folks? Okay. All right. We got Chicago, Atlanta, Georgia, Augusta, Georgia. Oh, how did I know there was someone from Augusta? Cool. Winston-Salem, Cleveland, LA, Denver. Good. All these things. All right. Now, perfect. Now what I want you to do, folks, is type into Google, okay, because you're obviously all at a computer, all right? Type in whatever your city is, okay, and then put commercial loan APR, okay? So everybody here, go to Google, okay? This is how you're going to learn about your local area cap rate. Go to Google and type in your city and state and then put commercial lending rate APR. All right. And then I want you to type the APR in the chat once you find it. It'll take you about 30 seconds to do, So if I were to do that, I would just type in Miami commercial lending rate APR. All right. And let me know what it is in your area. Very, very simple. Diego just chat GPT'd it. Thank you, Diego. 5.48. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, cool. 5.54. Good. You seem a bit on the low side. You guys all from the same area? Okay. All right, let's go. Commercial lending rate. There we go. 5.87. Good. Okay. Perfect. 5.48. There we go. Good. Now, mind you, folks, those are likely what they call like prime, which is basically the best rate they possibly give investors. Oftentimes it'll be a range, but let's just go with that. Let's just take Denver. Does that sound good, guys? Okay, I'm just going to use Denver for this example. And then from the example, you'll be able to see what we're talking about. Okay, so let's just call Denver. Second, get a new marker. All right, boom, here we go. 5.50. Okay, folks, this is the local lending rate in Denver, Colorado. Okay, now what I want everybody to understand is, okay, that there are certain things you need to take into account in terms of the rate of return or the cap rate that you're willing to pay. Okay, now, guys, I want everyone to type in the chat. If I borrowed money at 5.5% from the bank in Denver, and I bought a building at 5.5%, okay, is that a good investment, a bad investment, or a neutral investment? Okay, don't get technical. Don't say, well, if there's capital appreciation, just answer the simple question that I'm trying to get to. If I bring money, if I borrow money at 5.5 and I get a building that's paying me 5.5, okay, is that good, bad, or neutral? Okay, good. All right, keep it coming. Keep it coming. All right, good. Okay, all right, good. All right, yeah, the answer is either neutral or bad. Okay, I'll accept either of those two. The reason being, you're paying this much out. I'll give you a really simple example. I go to Dave and I say, Dave, can I borrow $100? He says, sure. And I go and I get a job making $100. And I say, okay, great. And I take on a bunch of risk to pay him his $100 back. And all I'm making is $100. I'm paying it to him every month. I'm making $100. I'm paying. Is that a good job or a bad job? Right? Okay. The point I'm making is, folks, it's not a good investment if I'm getting $100 from my tenants and giving $100 to Dave. You with me, folks? Okay. It's not a good investment. Similarly, okay, to borrow money at 5.5% and then get 5.5% from my building. Is it a good or a bad investment if I am making 4.5% from my building and I'm paying the bank 5.5%? Is that good, bad, or neutral? Type that into the chat. Okay. My building is making 4.5% and I'm paying the bank 5.5%. Exactly. Bad. Horribly bad. Exactly. Unwise investment exchange. Yes, exactly. Good. So now you're understanding. Okay. So you can't borrow money at a 5.5 and then go buy a building that's a 5.5 or a 4.5. We're going in the wrong direction. Okay. That's called negative leverage. Now, what most investors aspire to do is borrow money at 5.5 and then charge something north of that. Okay. The question is how much? The question is how much do we have to have above what we borrow, or the APR, the annual percentage rate, or what a lot of people will call cost of funds. Okay. How much higher do we need to be? How much higher? So what we talk about, okay, so obviously 5% higher would be great. 10% higher would be great. It's just not realistic. Okay. So what we talk about is basically what makes sense, what a lot of investors will look at is somewhere between 1.5 to 2 points above your cost of funds, or what's called 1.5 to 2 points of spread. Okay. Can anybody tell me what spread allows us to do? What is, so if we're borrowing here, okay, and then we've got a bit of spread here, okay, all right, this is your spread. I have terrible handwriting, okay, but here. So we're gonna type in the chat, folks, if I have 1.5 to 2 points of spread, what does the cap rate on the building, what is what we call acquisition cap rate have to be? Okay. Eula says cover basic cost plus cushion. Exactly. Yes. And it allows us to make money. Okay. So where does that mean? Where do I have to buy this building at? What's an acceptable cap rate, knowing that the bank is going to charge me 5.5%? Type it in the chat, folks, with 1.5 to 2 points of spread. What does that mean? Well, we're getting close. What's 5.5 plus 1.5 to 2? What's 1.5 plus to 2 points of spread? There we go. Exactly. So this has got to be 7%, okay, to 7.5. Make sense, folks? Okay, why? Because 1.5 above that is 7, and 2 points above that is 7.5. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. And the reason why we have that, you can call it a lot of different things. You can call it your spread. You can call it your margin of safety. You can call it your cushion. You could call it a buffer. At the end of the day, it helps you not lose your shirt. Okay. So let's think about that, folks. All right. What happens if a tenant moves out? Ooh, okay. What are some other things that can happen in a building that are unexpected and you don't make as much money as you thought? Type it in the chat, folks. Okay. A tenant moves out. That's a simple one. Okay. What are some other things that can happen? Economic depression. Good. So you don't get the rents that you thought you were going to. Good, Eula. Good. Anybody else? Interest rate increase. Yeah. You could have an adjustable rate mortgage. Oh man, can you imagine that? That's what happened. A whole lot of people lost their shirts back in 08. Yep. Tax increase. There you go. Good. All of these are referring to either you're not getting as much rent as you thought, or your expenses are higher than you thought. Okay. COVID. Exactly. Good, everybody. So you're starting to get what we're talking about. So this being said, let's just assume that we have a 1.5% spread that we need. I want everybody now that you know the formula, okay, your local area lending rate plus 1.5 percentage points. I want everybody to put in now, that's called your local area cap rate. I want everybody to type in the chat your city and your local area cap rate, okay? Because you just learned something very, very valuable. Because people aren't going to borrow money at a 5 and buy a building at a 4. It's not going to work, okay? Houston, Texas. Now, there we go. Good. So that's a cost of funds of about, whatever, that 5.8%. And for Eula, it is 7.3%. Love it. Sacramento, California, 5.8. Yeah, but Diego, you got to add on 1.5 points of spread. So what would that be then, Diego? Yep. So add on 1.5 points, and you're going to be pretty close to Eula, I think. Right? What else we got, folks? Catherine, Laura, Patricio, Charlize, Dave. What do we got? There we go. 7.3. Good. Okay. Anybody else? Catrice, John, Joe. All right. Folks, the point I want you all to understand is people say, well, what's the cap rate nowadays? I don't know. What can you borrow money at nowadays? That's the real question. Okay. It doesn't matter what's happening in Sacramento. If I live in LA and I deal with a different bank and then somehow they're a point apart, guess what? Yep. And you're in Texas, it was answered. Okay. Good. Most important thing I want you to understand, folks, is it varies. It varies. So people say, well, what's a good cap rate these days? Now you know what a good cap rate is. It's whatever your cost of funds is plus 1.5 to 2 percentage points, okay? Because remember, it doesn't matter what market you're in. If you're selling income-producing properties, all you have to understand is, because you really think about it, folks, okay? You have to understand what money costs to borrow and then what you can get from buildings. That's it. And what's in the middle there, that's your spread. And incidentally, that's the money you are making on someone else's money, okay? Would it be better to make 2 percentage points than 1.5 percentage points on their money? Sure, but sometimes it can't work. Eula says, can the cap rate be negotiated depending on the purchase point? Absolutely, yeah. Because think of it this way, guys, all right? I'll give you a perfect example. $100,000 of NOI, okay? Right, we're going to do some real simple math. You guys, do me a favor. Pull out calculators, all right? $100,000 of NOI, okay? $1 million ask price, okay? What is the cap rate? So it's 100,000 divided by 1 million equals, now type that number in the chat. There you go. Good. Yeah, it's a 10 cap or a 0.10. There we go. Yeah. Okay, now what I want you guys to understand is same building, same $100,000, but instead of buying it at $1 million, I buy it at $950,000. Okay, do that math. So 100,000 divided by 950,000. What does that come out to? we go. Ken's on it. Yep. That's it, folks. Okay. 10.526. All right. The thing I want you all to understand is cap rate is not forever and always. It is merely a snapshot of in time for how a building is operating. The example I'd love to give is this. Let's say we're selling a building in Minneapolis. Okay. And right now, we're asking $1 million for it. And right now, as of today, the operating expenses for the last 12 months have been 100,000. I'm sorry, the X amount, which gives you an NOI of $100,000. So right now, it's a 10 cap, right? $100,000 divided by $1 million. But what happens if they have a huge snowstorm tonight? And what happens if I have to spend $30,000 in order to clean up all the snow? Because it's a huge, huge, huge complex. Okay. What if I have to spend 15,000, 20,000, whatever that number is? So what happens when your operating expenses increase? What happens to your NOI? Okay. You with me? NOI goes down. So what happens if instead of having $100,000 of NOI, okay, I have $86,000 of NOI? What then? What is my cap rate then? 86,000 divided by $1 million. You see what I'm saying, guys? If I spent $14,000 cleaning up the snow, guess what happens, folks? Okay. My cap rate goes from 10% to 8.6%. There we go. Make sense, folks? All right. And that's the thing I want you guys to understand. A cap rate is nothing more than a snapshot in time. If you want to be really, really strict about it, all it is the relationship between income and value. Okay. Value is, in this case, the sales price. Okay. Income and value. Okay. The net operating income and the purchase price or the value of the property. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay. Folks, this is just the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. If this is something you want to learn more about, okay, valuation is the fastest way for you to get good in commercial real estate. Here's the thing. A lot of people come to me. In fact, type a 1 in the chat if this has ever come to you. You've ever wanted to get involved in commercial real estate, but maybe, just maybe, like you've been a little hesitant. You're like, man, I don't have all the years to figure this stuff out. I've already been doing this stuff for a long time on the residential side, and I just don't want to start all over. Okay, type a 1 in the chat if that applies to you. I've heard that quite a bit. And the thing that I love the most is that you can get really good at underwriting in a very short period of time. Okay, you can't speed up 20 years of experience, but you know what you can do? You can learn underwriting in about 90 days. You can get very, very good at it in a short period of time. So if you folks are looking to make this year your best year ever, okay, the very best thing you can do is learn underwriting. You can speed up. You can look like an absolute whiz just because you understand underwriting, and it can be learned in 30 days. But between now and the end of the summer, you could be a whiz at underwriting, be able to underwrite any type of building, anywhere, anyway, because guess what, folks? 1 + 1 will always equal 2. I don't care what city, what state, what market, 1 + 1 will always equal 2, okay? The other thing is, folks, we're coming into the summertime, okay? June 1st is next Saturday. Okay, I should say it's this Saturday, right? The point is the year is almost halfway over. If you guys thought that this was going to be your breakout year and you're not quite on pace for it, don't worry. You just have to do something different than you've been doing. All right, folks, I'm doing a training on Thursday. All right, what I would like you to do is invite you to it. If you guys like understanding about the things that move the needle, one of my students that just joined our coaching program, she was asking me about kind of like what we teach. And it's very simple for what we teach in our coaching program. It's very simple. All we teach is exactly what you need to learn, nothing more. No, like the old Miller Lite commercial, right? All killer, no filler. You don't need to know anything else other than what we teach to make tens of millions of dollars of sales per year in commercial real estate. You want to sell $10 million worth? We can show you. You want to sell $20 million worth? Sure, we can show you how to do that, right? One of my students is closing on a $12 million closing by the end of July. Folks, that's what's possible, okay? One of my students has a $17 million listing that she's negotiating now. The guy's coming in at 15 million. Okay. We're talking about a couple $100,000 in commissions. That's what's possible, folks. But until you get up to home plate and swinging, you're never going to get in the game. All right. So thanks so much for being here. I'll see you folks next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Go out and learn. Talk to you later, guys. See ya.